Welcome everyone on this lovely Thursday or Friday, wherever you are in the world. My name is Mai Nishitani, and we're here to host another awesome session of AWS She Builds Tech Skills. And we're at episode 26 already. And it's all about generative AI. May, what's been happening in that space and what have you been working on?
Yeah, good. Well, a lot of things has been happening in the generative AI space, as you can imagine. And some of the, well, I guess like big events that's happening in Sydney. So if you are in Sydney, you should come and check out South by Southwest that is happening at ICC throughout the week. And I'm going to be there until Saturday this week. So come and check out some of the innovation, some of the the cool technology and some of the generative AI applications that we have built at the expo floor.
Awesome. Can you tell me more about this generative AI application demo that you've got going on at South by Southwest there?
Yes, so my background is software engineering, so I love tinkering and playing around with this. And I don't have much of a, in data engineering or data science background, but it's really cool to build out these applications where you can ask the chatbot, or we call it digital concierge. So asking a digital concierge about the sessions that is happening, where you are. So let's say I'm at the expo floor A and I want to know a session about robotics from 9 to 10 a.m. What sessions are playing at 9 to 10 a.m. at this floor? And you can ask the digital concierge to come up with, these are the sessions that's available. This is where they are. These are the speakers and all about things that's happening at that time. So that's like a really simple, I guess, like way to showcase the generative AI and large language model to really extract that information from South by Southwest schedule and be presented to the user. So if you're interested, come and check us out at ICC today. I'm going to be there today and tomorrow.
That's awesome, mate. That sounds a lot like a lot of fun, actually. I wish I could be there. um, yeah, I'm truly getting FOMO there. I'm missing out. Now, speaking of all these different things that you're building and stuff like that. You used to be a developer, right? And lately,
Mhm.
I've been getting questions around, what's the difference between, let's say, a developer or a software engineer versus a solutions architect? I know we're both solutions architects. What's the difference, May?
It's really interesting because, like, yeah, like this is one of the most commonly asked questions that we get, or maybe like from the connections from the network. It's like, look, as a solutions architect, we are technology advisory. We advise customers on the latest innovations that's happening, the latest technology, educating the customer on how to build things and building the demo and showcasing what they can do using the technology in their business. And I guess like as a software engineer in the previous life, if like it's so much into building, writing the production ready code really in the development life cycles that I'm deeply involved. And when I switched to a solutions architect role, I'm taking a step back, like I'm taking myself out of the development life cycles. And it is like even before the development happened, just having that, a conversation with the customer at the earlier stage of what is possible, what's good looks like building on AWS, and how to design from the best practices perspective in the technology space. So I think that's my 2 cents. What about yourself, Mai?
Yeah, it's definitely customer facing. Whereas, I didn't used to be a dev. I used to be a sysadmin, or I guess the modern term for it now is a DevOps engineer, right? Or a platform engineer. So in that role, I was more sort of in the background or in the back end, configuring things and deploying things, right? And you don't, well, depends who you call your customer. Right? You will have internal customers, but in terms of liaising with customers on a regular basis, and May, you
Yeah.
mentioned best practices. the best practices part for essays are really important, and always go back to the well-architected framework around what's the best way to design and architect something on the cloud. It goes back to the well-architected, right? So it is a very customer-facing role. And another question that I get from people on LinkedIn is like, oh, so how do you become a solutions architect? And we can dive deeper when we have our guests around that as well. But yeah, another question is, do you need to do leak code in order to become a solutions architect in that interview process? No, you don't need leak code, at least for an SA role in AWS. What's been your experience, May?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's mainly around, I guess, like architecture design and your thought process. Like I remember sitting through my interview process. It's just like, trying to articulate how you solve the problem, what benefits is in there for the customers, and how you make a choice on the technology. There are so many choices and so many ways to build or solve the problem. And it's really important to focus on your thought process and how you get to the solution stage, and why do you choose that technology, and be able to articulate that. I guess that's the main, or like in my experience, that is the core components of being a customer facing, a solutions architect. I just want to call out a few people's on the chat. So let us know where you are joining from. I just want to call out Mitch. Hey, Mitch. Mitch is it's one of my earliest mentor when I joined AWS as well. So thank you for checking us out on live streaming.
Yeah, hey Mitch.
And also,
He was my mentor as well for the containers technical field community.
there you go.
All right.
Freedom Dio, yeah, we're going to talk about extracting information, and I think this is a really good time. Mai, do you want to introduce our guest speaker?
Yes, definitely. All right. So with us, we have a fellow solutions architect, but she is a specialist solutions architect in the AI ML, or artificial intelligence and machine learning space. Welcome, Romina.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I was going to say welcome to myself. So
Awesome. May, do you have a few questions for Romina?
I do. And Romina, where are you based?
I'm based of Melbourne. So today is beautiful and sunny.
That is amazing. And I know you have been with AWS and for a little while, and you've been in this AI ML and tech industry for quite a number of years. So tell us a little bit about what you do at AWS. As you can see in our title, we're slightly different: solutions architect, specialist solutions architect. Tell us a little bit about your role at AWS and how do you get into this industry?
Sure. Thanks, May and Mai. So first about a role, the role itself, being a specialist solution architect. So May and Mai, you touched on some of the things that we do as solution architects, working closely with technology and working closely with customers. So I think they really underpin what I do as well. Very closely working with customers, but I'm really focused in solving customers' problems within this machine learning, and I add to that generative AI space these days. So, and that can include really a range of different conversation at different level of depths, because we deal with customers at different level of maturity. So sometimes you want yourself kind of stay at really broader view of how you would go about solving a certain problem. Is it actually a good idea to solve that problem via machine learning, or let's say generative AI? But a lot of the times we go really deep and in the weeds to kind of solve a very specific issue or problem that is not actually working in a certain way. So you go and find in what technology can actually solve that specific, area. With that, we also work with range of different customers. A lot of them are developers, a lot of them are data scientists, a lot of them are, senior stakeholders that they're decision kind of makers. So you also have that basically opportunity to work across different layers within, your customer base. And to add to that, a lot of the activities that we do, like yourself, is building a specific POCs for the customers, helping them, get started with building, whatever use case that they want on AWS, hosting training and enablement session for the customers, deep dive specific, workshops on each of, the AWS's AI/ML services, which there's a full stack of, services available to the customers. So that keeps us quite actually busy as a specialist solution architects.
Yeah, no, that sounds really cool. Lots of activities, lots of different activities that you're doing with the customer. The another questions I get, I guess, is how did you get into a specialist solutions architect role, and what was your experience looks like?
Sure. A great question, because I get that question a lot as well on the LinkedIn. So I think it's a really good opportunity to share about a little bit my personal journey. So I think I developed the passion of working with data back in time when I was actually doing my PhD. So early in my PhD, I really knew and I developed that passion of how to work with data. And when I talk about that, that was before data science actually hit, the world, and everyone buzz about what is data science. And I'm talking about even big data prior to that. So that was for me. And my PhD actually involved working a lot with the data. Sophisticated from a statistical analysis that I had to perform as part of the program. And from there, I started actually going deeper and deeper into that. But one thing I wasn't good at, that was programming. You're good at, you're a software developer, but I wasn't actually a software developer. So that's something I take a lot of pride in, because I'm a self-taught programmer. I started teaching myself how to code. And I really start to actually loving it, and I could kind of relate a lot of the time how you can, when you want to solve a certain programming problem, how you actually break it down into pieces and then try to kind of build that, a specific algorithm, just like any other problems. And that was, I think, a turning point in my career when I actually rolled my sleeves up and taught myself how to code, because that really empowered me to take whatever I do to a different level. Also, that inspired me to go back to university and do another degree after PhD, which most people find it really weird that, again, I've done to do another, degree after a PhD. So yes, I went back and did a master's in artificial intelligence in computer sciences, because I had, again, two passions. First, learn the fundamentals really, really well. And second, I wanted to do, again, some research within the NLP kind of area. So, and when I was doing my master's, I was already actually working in the industry as a data scientist. And majority of my time has been spent in a consulting roles, customer facing, and solving the customer problems. That's perhaps part of the passions that I have as part of the job that I do. And following that, I just I started my career at AWS as well as a solution architect, which is machine learning solution architect, which a lot of the time you find the people coming from, data science background. A lot of the people come from, data science consulting background into this role at AWS.
Yeah,
That's
that is
awesome.
very inspiring. The dedications to study and then like self-taught program. That's very inspiring.
Thank you.
Mai, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, so I'm sure you get a lot of questions from LinkedIn around, how do you become a ML engineer or be in the AI ML space? And what's the number one advice you give to people who is looking to break into that space?
Yeah. Amazing question, because I already have few actually messages on LinkedIn that I'm trying to answer, but hopefully you're online and you can actually listen to what I actually have to share. So one thing I think will always stand you out from the rest of the people, and that's the art of communication. Within a, especially solution architect role, within a solution architect role, you have to be a really, really good communicator. And that kind of brings me back to the point that I mentioned. You get to talk to different type of people, from the developer all the way to really C-level, C-suite or executives that you will actually deal with. So being able to communicate not just the normal, things, but the technical side, it's really an art that you will have to build on. That is why one of the perhaps biggest recommendation that I have, if you have the passion to becoming a solution architect, is first of all, build on your soft skills, build on your consulting skills. You have to be able to listen very well, digest all those information, and then think how you can use all those information to solve a specific problem. So no, you don't need a PhD to be a solution architect, although there might be some patterns because a lot of the ML specialists do actually have a PhD. But I suppose that's because the nature of the role requires you to solve various type of problems. So you have to be always available and eager to learn new technology and also go deeper at different levels to solve, for problems that customers bring to you. And some of those problems can be really, really challenging. You get to wear different really hats. Sometimes you have to maybe dig really into codes to understand what certain piece of code works, algorithms, and different models, and nowadays even with Gen AI. So there's a lot of changes. So that's one of the advices. Technology, I think, is the second thing. Because technology changes. What we learn, today, what we learned last year, a lot of the time is not fully relevant as the technology evolves. And we are, I think, observing this just now with the generative AI. Everything is started to shift. Everything has started to evolve. I even feel my role has started to shift and evolve quite a lot compared to what I did basically last year. So that's another thing, to always stay on par and stay up to date with what is actually happening around you within the technological space. And that is, the third thing. And the most importantly, knowing whether this role actually is the right role for you or not. Why am I saying this? Because dealing with customers require you to develop also some additional skills that a lot of the time you don't know what customer asks you. So you have to feel comfortable when you don't know things. You have to be able to respond and act and know where to go and what resources are in your disposal to solve a specific problems. Prioritization of what you do. These are all really, really important skills that you will also need in this role. So I think combination of all those, and I say that because I do have a lot of friends who work in the technology, but a lot of the time they tell me they never can do what I do. It's because it's a job that requires you to constantly be evolving yourself, constantly be learning.
That's an amazing answer, Romina, and I totally agree with the communication is key, and even like defining the problem statement, right? That comes first, and once you got what the problem statement is, then it's just working from there, working backwards from that problem, and yeah, and it begins. But yeah, being a solutions architect is no easy feat, and I totally agree with that. Now, speaking of
Absolutely.
the fast-moving space of generative AI, I believe you have a cool demo that you're going to run everyone through today.
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much. First of all, I want to go back to what we've discussed so far. Why I'm actually showing you all this today. What type of problems do they solve for maybe the people who are online watching, or for some of our customers? And the inspiration comes from all the chats that I've been having with my customers recently in the face of generative AI and LLMs. So I want to talk a little bit about what are the use cases that actually information extraction are helpful and we can solve them by the name. Information extraction sounds a little vague, but let's look into some of the common use cases, which when you look around yourself, a lot of the time you see, oh, I do actually have a customer who wants to do this. Oh, I actually have a problem like this. So let's look at some of them. Um, one of the predominant areas that I've had chat with customers is the customer has um, piece of text that can be conversation out of a call center, that could be chatbot sessions, and that could be customer, for example, emails or communications. A lot of the time customer want to extract certain information, such as what was the intent of that chat session that the customer had, what was the summary of that call center that happened, did actually the problem solved, what was actually the tone of the people who communicated within that email, the agent, was the person polite. So those are all the things that a lot of the time matters to you as a features and you want to extract. One other use case which traditionally we are a lot more familiar with, it's entity recognition, named entity recognition. When you have a number of PDF files, documents, or even scanned files that they can be turned into, a digital format, and you want to extract a specific named entity items out of them, such as name of the companies. Think about invoices that you want to, for example, extract invoice numbers, and identity cards that you want to extract name of the peoples, and so on and so forth. And a lot of the time that's really important because you need to just redact or mask those information for downstream applications that you do. Other use case that in face of LLMs, you can harness really this power of extraction of information out of the passages or out of the corpus of data is when you actually want to label your data. These foundation models, we don't need to provide them with the label data, and that's really where the power comes from. But you can actually use them and label some of the data that you want to use for additional machine learning tasks, or even improving the same task that you want to perform, even within the extraction. When you and when I want to talk about use cases, perhaps there's so many, but one of the other ones that perhaps is good to mention is about when you extract entities and relationship out of those. A lot of the time also the goal is because you want to build a knowledge graph or you want to build a taxonomy of a form. So again, these large language models can actually empower you by extracting all those information, providing you that kind of a stepping stone to build your knowledge graph or the taxonomy that you need. Okay, so let me actually go ahead and share my screen and show you in action what does that look like. Okay, present.
We have some audience saying some are really enjoying using the LLM information extraction to organize and learn about new code system that are open source and using that as a scraping system. So I think that's an interesting use case as well.
And use case, absolutely. That's why I say when you think about use cases, there's actually a lot that you can think of, but you're really empowered of doing that. And I think we can talk about those a little bit more. And I think those who are online, they can actually share, what they're doing with the extraction type of work.
If anyone watching online want to share about the use cases that you're using on the LLM with the information extraction, let us know in the chat.
Wonderful. So here I'm actually showing Amazon Bedrock console. So Amazon Bedrock is one of the services, was announced GA just recently. Amazon Bedrock hosts a number of foundation models from Amazon. We call them first party and proprietary third party models, such as from the Anthropic, that you could use these models to basically build generative AI applications easily without requiring you to worry about infrastructure kind of under the hood. So this is the Bedrock kind of console, and you can actually, and please feel free to explore it on your own time. It is available in US East 1 and US East 2 region. And if you go to the Bedrock, you can see there are a number of examples that are already provided for you, doing different type of tasks from also different providers, from entity extractions, content generations, creation of image, and so on and so forth. And if you go to base models, again, you can actually see different providers and their models kind of listed for you, that if you select kind of this model, you can open them in the playground, or you can also see the API kind of inference that is available for you. But before taking so much time, I actually want to go to the playground and talk about showing you one of these models, which is Cloud version 2 from Anthropic. So what actually I want to ask this model is, let ask Cloud itself, just bring this here. How can you help extract information from a text? Let's see what actually Cloud comes back and tell us. So if we look at the responses providing, it actually tells us a lot about how you can actually use the information extracted. And this is amazing. Keyword extractions, entity relation extraction, sentiment analysis, topic modeling. Topic modeling, we had to put a lot of effort to actually do topic modeling in the past. Information retrieval, summarization. So even, the model itself can tell you, very nicely where it can help you with the extraction of information. Now, I want to actually go a little bit deeper because, what I have here, I'm interacting more with the APIs compared to just, the playground. In this notebook, I've basically set up the associated libraries, set up my Bedrock to make sure it's kind of working. It's quite simple. You just call the client for the Bedrock runtime and pass on the parameter specific to that also model ID that you want to select, and then invoke the model. So I've just asked a simple question, explained the black hole to 8 grades for me, and it's given me a nice answer. Just a dummy question to make sure my Bedrock is actually working well. Here I'm getting the Bedrock to work with LangChain. If you're not familiar with LangChain, LangChain is an open source framework that makes creation of uh, of um, um, uh, applications with a large language model a lot more simple at a very high level and in a very simplistic way. As the name implies, is really chaining different part or models basically together in a sequential kind of way. That's really the base of what LangChain can actually help you to do, such as when you put the prompt and the model kind of together. And now let's start with few things that we can actually use the power of these models. So I'm using the Cloud version 2 here. And one other aspects that we need to consider working with these models is prompt engineering. So at the very base level, I'm just going to get, what I need from this model using the prompt engineering. So I'm just passing an email sample. Hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. And this email actually got a bunch of PIIs, including email. And I'm actually going to ask this model, hey, I'm passing you a sample of the email. Get me the email address if you
Romina?
find one. Yep.
So,
Hello.
would you be okay to zoom in a little? Okay,
Oh,
so
yes,
a
yes.
few people on the streaming saying it's a
It's a
little hard
small.
to read.
Is it
Yeah, if
better
you can
now?
zoom in. Yeah, perfect.
Is it
I
better
hope
now?
that's
Yeah.
better. Yeah,
So
yeah.
hopefully it's better. So this is try to actually move this a little bit. Just zoomed in now. Um, and And once I run this with the model, you can see very nicely it's gone back. And I'm telling to model, I don't want you to tell me anything else. Just give me the email neat and clean. And that's exactly what the model does. So the more precise you communicate to these models, obviously, the better they understand what they actually can provide you. So one other example, again, that how you can get advantage of the prompt engineering. I'm saying I'm passing you a text, redact all the PIIs that you see in this information, replace them with this XXX, return back the whole passage to me. These are all as part of the prompts in here. And I'm telling it, I'm giving you the email in these HTML tags. And when you give me the response, give me in these response tags. A lot of the time when you want to process this done streams, it becomes really handy in the format that you want the model to provide that basically response for you. Passing that email, and you can see very nicely it's doing an amazing job. So it's removing all the PIIs, replacing them exactly with the format that I've requested. Like a credit card number is smart enough to redact, and leave that for last 4 digits, which we know is not really confidential, and return it in exactly the format that I've asked. So let's look at another example. In here, I'm asking the model, hey, I'm giving you this passage, extract all the name entities, but when you return that, give me as a key and value pair within a JSON format. So the key is the entity type and the value represent those entities that you found. Look at the answer. It's just amazing. It's really doing exactly
So
what I'm
you
asking
can,
this model to do for me.
so you tell the
It's
model
still not visible.
exactly what you want. Yeah. And then, yeah, it's
And the
doing a really good job of spitting out those
really
response
good job.
back. Yeah.
Exactly. And the more precise you tell the model what to do, it is going to do it. For example, if you go ahead and remove these, it's just going to give you the entities without telling you what type they are. But I've requested it because I wanted it in exact different format. So this is so to emphasize, and prompt engineering, I think it's part art, part science, but a lot of the time is really trial and error because different models will work also with different prompt engineering differently.
Right.
The other, I think, powerful tool that is available for you is really LangChain, because LangChain also allows you to do lots of things with these LLMs. In here, I'm showing you the advantages of the output parsers that are available in LangChain and the Pydantic Python library, which works with the LangChain at the moment. So Pydantic is a Python validation library. So you can actually define the classes of those objects that you want to perhaps validate and tell what type of data they are, whether they're a string or integer and so on and so forth, and then use it together with the output parser. That's the Pydantic output parser from the LangChain, passing your passage to that. I've passed a passage from Apple, founded 1976, blah, 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 blah. And I've asked it to extract this one for me in this specific format. Look at the output. Founder Steve Jobs, year founded 1976. So this actually limit the model not to put everything that it finds, only the things that you need, because that can be also challenging, a lot of noise. You extract lots of the things that you don't need, but we're here getting the model to give us exactly what we want it to do, again, in a format that we want. So you can see that all the products, personal computers, phone, and Bluetooth. So any questions coming through or?
I've got a question. I guess you've worked in the traditional machine learning space, and then you mentioned that things are changing in the current generative AI space. Like in using large language models, if you had to do this, if you think back to when you had to do this before large language models, has there been a lot of time that's been saved since LLMs have come out?
Absolutely, Mai, and what a great question, because that's exactly what I wanted to actually point out next. In prior to the foundation model, large language models, the models that are able to multitask. And that's really the differentiator. We had to sit and label this data for all these entities that I'm showing you. It's a very labor intensive jobs, and I know it because I've done it myself back in 2017, detecting, basically annotating your data, extracting all those entities, tagging them in your kind of corpus of data. And you need lots of examples to be able particularly to detect the entities that are not very common. They're not name entities, such as, for example, products, platforms. That was projects that I worked in the past, and we spent actually hours a team to actually annotate the data. Here, I don't even need, a single, basically a label data to get this model to give me. And look at the accuracy. Even the humans back in time, when you actually labeled it, sometimes it becomes very hard to detect the entities because of the semantics of the sentences and the text that we actually see. But here, that is really, and this model is actually good to do many tasks, is not just able to do the entity detection tasks. The model that we built in the past with the label data was only able to do entity detection. It wouldn't be able to do absolutely nothing else. But here, these models are well capable of doing other type of tasks, which is exactly what I want to show you quickly in the next kind of notebook. And that's also about kind of not directly extraction, is more of a classification, but that's again because a lot of the time customers want to also do classifications alongside with the extraction. Okay, so here I'm actually in the SageMaker. I just to point quickly towards also SageMaker Jumpstart that actually also hosts a large number of foundation models as well as LLMs. So I have deployed a model here, and I'll show you quickly from the menu. You can easily go to the SageMaker Jumpstart in here, and you can actually see all the models that is available, all the foundation models. You can actually search them by ML task or solutions, and so on and so forth. So you can really look for, there's more than I think 400 models actually available here. There are several ways you can deploy these models. From the Jumpstart, you can deploy them really by one click. A lot of the models that are fine-tunable, you can fine-tune them with one click and then deploy them with another click. You can also use, because of the partnership with the Hugging Face, you can also use Hugging Face containers. So that's what I've used here to deploy this Flanty X5 model. And what actually I'm trying to get this model to do is I'm passing a piece of customer conversation, and I'm asking what is the topic of the conversation. So similar to the discussion we had before, if we want to do topic modeling, this is what you actually can do. Again, the template, the prompt template, it's quite simple in a, let me zoom in again, in a sense that we pass the piece of text and then get the model to give us, the topic of the conversation. So based on this passage, the topic is booking a flight. So it's doing a very good job again. But now I want to talk about a little bit that a lot of the times classification comes with the specific classes that you want to actually use. And this is where I've created actually a dummy data. So you can see in that data, there is an intent class and there's a sub-intent class. A lot of the time, even the labels that you want to extract out of the conversation might be hierarchical, might be nested. So in here, what I'm going to do is I've defined this kind of intent template, telling it only when you tell me what it is, pick one of these labels. So you can see I'm passing these labels in here to the model, and also the prompt, the text, the customer text itself. And I asked the model to return that to me. I've also done it in a kind of nested fashion. So first, I'm telling the model which of these intent it is, and then pass that intent, and then what is the sub intent. For example, for all the booking, you have a number of them. For the luggage, you have a number of them. So the model is back to me with that prompt engineering, with the labels specifically that I'm giving to the model to pick from. Intent is booking, the sub intent is make a booking. So you can see that how powerful actually the prompt and giving the context to the model, zero shot, classification can actually be to solve, a lot of the use cases that you actually want to do without really require you to label your data.
Yeah, I think
So that's all I
that's
wanted to
super
show.
powerful. Yeah, we do have a questions on the live as well. So I'm just gonna say, like, if you have any other questions, please drop it in the chat. One questions that comes up is, Romina, what do you think of AI agents? Like, would you consider
Mhm.
those agents, and if there are any, I guess, like the benefits of using those agents in those systems?
Sure. Absolutely. So LangChain actually provides a number of agents that you could utilize. So um, agents are different with chains. Agents, you can think of them as one level more intelligent. This is my sort of perhaps explaining it to myself, in a sense that the agent can decide at the time what action to take. But a chain, you just run the chain. Whatever
Yeah.
chain it is, you just run that chain. So a lot of the time using agents can be a very powerful I'd say framework. For example, an agent, you can build a custom agent and you get it to work with different tools. And those different tools can do different things. One can be, for example, I don't know, a booking system. One can be falling in your knowledge base to find the answer like a RAG-based system. But the agent actually at that time decides using an LLM which of these tools it should basically utilize. So that's where the agents actually can be really powerful. And yes, we will see more and more applications on them. And Bedrock will release its own agents as well, which makes building these applications a lot more simpler.
Yeah, that's really interesting because the freedom there mentioned that, with the AI agents, a model discussing the result of a query with another model to make it more complex and more like handling those kind of intelligent like
Exactly.
decision making process. So I think that's a really interesting technology to to incorporate into a LLM and this generative AI application.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. And again, when you think about the use cases, it can be really limitless on what you can actually do. And more importantly, more and more are being built in this area nowadays. Like LangChain, every day you use it, there's a new version virtually like tomorrow. So
Yeah.
um,
It is constantly evolving. Mai, do you have any other questions from your end?
Yeah, I do actually. It's interesting that you explore the different large language models that are available on Bedrock. How do you know which model to use? Like, what's the selection process to
hmm.
select that particular large language model?
Yeah, $1 million question, Mai. It's a really good question. At the same time, difficult. The reason is look how many models are available out there. Like hundreds and hundreds of them are being available out there. But given the use case, I think few things can guide you through that decision making. First of all, is really the cost and performance analysis. That at the very first level, it might rule out some of the models because when you calculate the volume of the work that you want to use those models for might not really justify the cost of them, or on the other hand it might become really really expensive depending on what hosting option you actually choose to go with. So once you have like a short list of models, then you will start evaluating them. Also there will be actually quite a bit of work to be done because you need to have a specific prompts for a specific tasks. They're known as evaluation prompt catalogs. So and then perhaps you want to have a way to evaluate the responses that these models are providing. So one way is human in the loop. Human in the loop purely can be very expensive, but you can use a stronger foundation model to actually go and score the output of the other models. give them a rating. For example, if I'm using Flanty 5 here, I can get Cloud, which is a lot more powerful in my view, to rate the response that Flanty 5, for example, is providing for me. From there, I can further augment that with the human in the loop to come up with some ratings of each of these models that I've actually tried. So again, there's quite a bit of details in there without getting it into the weeds, but this is perhaps one way to think about how you're going to actually evaluate those models. For example, you have 3 and then run them through this evaluation process using the foundation models and human in the loop with the proper data, like ground truth data and the evaluation templates catalog to guide you actually through that decision.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's
Yeah,
guess,
it always
like,
comes up in customer conversations. So yeah, May, you've probably got more questions for Romina.
I have one more question, because now we have talked about, Bedrock, large language model, LangChain, a little bit about LangChain. For the audience who is watching online or watching on demand, if they want to get started, what are the possible way for them to get started? And I guess you have shown a few ways, Romina, but could you tell us a little bit about, how the people can get started on this generative AI or large language model journey?
Yes, absolutely. So we have a few links that we can share with you and following this show. And also, I think if you are already an AWS, customer, please reach out to your account team. We're always more than happy to engage and help. And one other thing is, there's never been, an easier time that you can learn things and you can do things. So majority of the information is available in an open source kind of fashion. There's GitHubs, there's examples, so they are all can be your kind of guiding. One important things that I want to emphasize though is be really clear what problem you're solving and what value you're delivering, because that is the most important things. A lot of the time you might actually think to yourself that there is a problem that you want to solve, but you need to work around how do you exactly think generative AI is going to help you solving that. So, and I do have lots of discussions around this with the customers, because it is really important to make sure that you're delivering the value out of what you're trying to build.
Awesome. I think there's another question here from the audience. May, do you want to read this one out?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. I guess this is talking about the earlier conversation for the reinforcement learning for the model choice. So are there any particular metrics that you can share to see what models performing better?
Yeah, look, some of the traditional models, it's a lot easier because you can define some metrics. For example, for a classification model, if you use the large language model, it's a lot easier to measure. So you can use some of these, like, for example, recall or precision or F1 score. So if the metrics can be used, some of those, traditional metrics that we have, they can be actually used and make it, yes, a lot more simpler in those scenarios. But if the task is more kind of generative, it becomes a lot more harder. So having evaluation data, which has the input and the output, that will be a very good starting point, because you can then compare what your model is producing, and you can really start in a smaller scale. Start with couple of models. Do not really go and get hundreds of models, because it can be overwhelming, but you can start with that. But evaluation data is really, really important, because what did you pass to the model, what is your actually training data actually would look like, what are you giving to the model, what is the expected output, and then rate those expected outputs out of what your the model that you're using actually provides for you.
Awesome. Great answer. Thank you. Hope that answered the questions. I guess we have to wrap it up here, am I?
Oh, one more question from earlier.
One more question. That is great.
From Silent Soul 1. How do you learn to communicate your stuff better? It's better when I'm remote, but I always feel like I could have explained things better. I always go through this conundrum myself. What are your thoughts, Romina?
It's actually a very good point. I always reflect back on how could I have said something clearer and better. The mode of communication, whether it's remote or virtual, or whether it's person, I personally find the person touch always more influential to be actually in the room, and because, to be honest, it's a lot less distraction when you are in the room with the customers. For example, everybody is focused, in that, things. There's no, for example, a Slack, messaging you and so on and so forth. So, but again, depends on perhaps your style of working and communication. So, but what I think is valuable is whatever you feel it helps you to improve, just do that. Personally, I think practice is the what makes things perfect, and same goes to the communication. And if you have something to deliver, always practice it with yourself and talk to yourself like loudly in your head. I mean, when I talk things in my head, is not as great as when I actually speak it out, because then you find all the things that it didn't follow well, or I could have said that in a more clear way.
Yeah, great advice. I think we got to wrap it up here, but thank you so much, Romina, for joining the sessions and talking about large language model. Thanks, Mai, to joining or hosting the show together. So, and thank you for the audience to joining live. And if you're watching on demand, or if you're watching live, thank you so much. And I hope you enjoyed the today's sessions. And if you are in Sydney, don't forget to come and check out South by Southwest and at the AWS floor, and we're showcasing LLM and generative AI and all the innovations that is happening. So come and check out at ICC if you're around, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks all. Thanks, May and Mai, for having me. Cheers.